understand why you're not going to run last, but you can at least wave the cane up in the air. Y'all wait. Okay, here we go. All right, open up your Bibles to 1 Samuel 17. Everybody have a New Year's resolution? No? I normally have one to not have one. But it seems like everybody figures that they always want to wait and procrastinate to do any kind of change in their life. It's always, I'll start Monday. I'll start, Just wondering how y'all's went. Trying to get some interaction, trying to get y'all to wake up. Connor had a long night of pulling people over, and apparently. Oh, okay. So that's good, see? All right, we're going to talk about fear today. What better subject to talk about than fear? Anybody ever afraid of anything? Wow. Well, when I think of fear, I think of, what really spells out fear. We got this right here in 1 Samuel 17. Jolly green Philistine trying to kill you. That just spells out fear to me. We're going to start in verse 4. And there went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines named Goliath of Gad, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. Connor, that's how tall? All right, that's right. What? Oh, he got it. 9'6". That's taller than what I am from this platform. Okay? 9'6". I like this. Connor messed up. He's going to be doing all these in his head for me. He's the answer man. And his helmet of brass upon his head, and he was armored with a coat of mail, and the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of brass. Connor? I do like that you knew that 9'6". Okay. And he was greaves of brass upon his legs, and target of brass between his shoulders. Now, I believe I've studied and I've read that his armor and his sword weighed about 150 pounds. Okay, anybody weigh 150 pounds in here? That's funny. Okay, so his armor and his sword weighed Connor, our local police officer. That's pretty impressive. I mean, that's 50 pounds less than probably what I weigh right now, because I guess my New Year's resolution was to eat food. All right, and the staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his spear head weighed 600 shekels of iron, and one bearing a shield went before him. And he stood and he cried unto the armies of Israel, and said unto them, Why are ye come out to set your battle in array? Am not I a Philistine, and ye servants of Saul? Choose you a man for you, and let him come down to me. If he is able to fight with me and kill me, then we will be your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then shall ye be our servants and serve us. And the Philistines said, I defy the army of Israel this day. Give me a man that we may fight together. When Saul and all of Israel heard those words of the Philistine, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. Now imagine, this huge guy comes out. And this is interesting because this is 2 armies. But they send out the biggest, baddest guy they got. This is Allen on steroids. I really wish he was here. I mean, this is just a hulk of a man comes out, and they're afraid. It says Saul and all of Israel heard the words of the Philistine. They were dismayed and greatly afraid. Now Saul is the king. One thing the Philistine messed up, he said they are servants of Saul. They're Israel. They serve God. Everybody got in their head they follow Saul. They're not following God. And the thing here is we see about fear, the first thing we see about fear is it is contagious. Because what should have happened is Saul, who was head and shoulders taller than everybody else, he should have went out and said, God will deliver you in my hands. And he should have went out and he should have fought the battle. Lively crowd today. People on camera, y'all ain't seeing it. They're running around with their Bibles. They're screaming, they're hooting and hollering. Yeah, we had to mute out the sound. But anyways, fear is contagious. And we have to watch it. If there's a storm and I'm around my family, I got to stay really calm. Me and my wife, when we first got married, we lived down the road from where y'all live. We lived on 13 and Wayland, on the corner of that street. Tornado sirens went off. There's a tornado on Wade Street. That's the road right at the end of our street. I got to be calm and collect. I can't be running around, or else my wife would do it. And it'd be utter chaos, and neither one of us have enough sense, because once chaos kicks in, when everybody starts getting afraid, everybody stops thinking. That just shuts down. So when we go into a situation, we have to be aware that fear is contagious. Now, if we're in a situation here at church and I see Connor panic, I'm going to start panicking. And the reason why I say that, not because he's, 150 pounds of muscle, it's because he's the law. Sorry, Connor, I'm going to really pick on you today. But I mean, he's a police officer. He's a state trooper. I mean, he's been trained. If something happens and he panics, that's when I need to panic. So many times in our life, we let fear stop us. And see, I talk about fear being contagious. Most people, when you ask them why they don't witness or share their faith, it's fear. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. And it's a giant to them. Or somebody they want to preach, or they want to do a Sunday school class. They feel God wants them to do it, but they're scared. And what's bad is other people see that you're afraid, and now they'll be afraid to do it. If you have an opportunity to witness somebody and you got a friend or your family with you, you see that person and you can hear a conversation they're having, and you know they need the Lord, but you don't do nothing, then they'll be scared. Fear is contagious, and it stops us from moving forward in our Christian walk. I mean, we get scared and we just... This is more comfortable here. A little bit better scenery for y'all too. But this is what we do. We sit, we run, we hide. I'm getting older. I may need your cane. That's what fear does. And you think to yourself that, well, I'll eventually get over the fear. I'll eventually get over the fear. Verse 16, it tells us the Philistine drew near morning and evening and presented himself for 40 days. 40 days, everybody cowers down. 40 days, everybody's scared of this one guy. It blows my mind how everybody can be scared of the one guy. It's kind of like the conversation we had, Aaron, about the little two-shot pistol. He says, it's kind of a pointless gun. I said, well, it's a last resort. And I told him about a movie I seen once, way back when, and the guy that's all he carried was that little two-shot pistol. Well, there were 6 guys gonna whoop him. He pulls that pistol, one of them laughs and says, you only got 2 shots. He said, which 2 of y'all want to die so the other 4 can get me? Then everybody kind of stepped back. There's things in our life that we just will never progress forward unless we get over fear. And these people, this army was not moving forward. This army was shut down over fear. A church can be shut down over fear. We cannot grow. We cannot move spiritually. We can just shut down. And then once we shut down, we quit moving, we quit growing, we quit doing stuff, we die. Any one of these guys could have went up and they could have fought Goliath. They could have won. The whole army could have just charged forwards and attacked. That guy couldn't whoop the whole army. But fear is powerful. We see that somebody comes up. 40 days this goes on. And finally we have somebody come into the story. We have David. It said in verse 20, it says, and David rose up early in the morning and left his sheep with the keeper and took and went as Jesse has commanded him as he came to the trench as the host was going forth to fight and shout in battle. Okay. He's going forward. His dad tells him, go down there, bring some food to your brothers, see how the battle is, see what's going on. He goes forward. Now, we know he's a young kid. How old was he? Anybody? I don't know. All I do know is he was not a legal age to be in the army. He was a kid. In their eyes, he was a kid. So this kid rose up and he sees everything going on. And he hears the Philistine come out and talk, and he sees, in verse 24 says, and all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and was sore afraid. He sees they're afraid. He sees they're scared. A kid. But he has a solution to fear. When all the manly men, when all the strong guys, when everybody in the army who's been trained and been taught how to fight and combat back then was different than combat now. Now we can stand back and we can pop people from distances. It was hand to hand then. It was sword and shield. It was brutal. I'm not saying war's not brutal now. It's still brutal. But he goes up there. His oldest brother, I can't pronounce his name, he mocks him. Says, you just come up here. I know the naughtiness of your heart. You just come up here. You just want to see the battle. His brother's trying to justify his own fear and try to belittle his brother because his brother's over here asking. David's asking, who is this man? Why is he defiling the army? Why is he talking bad about God? One person right now is standing up, and it's a little boy. Verse 32, and David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with the Philistine. A kid. Now, can you imagine if everybody's scared? Connor's scared. Bear over there scared. Sean's scared. Chad, all the men of this church. We haven't got Alan here, and he's scared. And then you take somebody like my son Enoch. He comes up and says, I'll go fight him. We'd think it's crazy, would we not? But we got a fair witness in the people, but what do? We tell the kids, hey, it's in here. Take this tract and give it to a person. So we really can't make fun of the army too much because we do the same thing. See, David goes forward and tells the king, hey, I'll go fight this guy. I'll go do this. Why is David not afraid? Why is everybody else afraid and David's not? He's not afraid for the same reason we shouldn't be afraid. God was with him. God is with us. I better turn over there because I'll mess it up if I try to quote it. 2 Timothy 1:7, for God has not given us the spirit of fear. We've been saying we ain't got the spirit of fear in us. It says, but of power and of love and of sound mind. I know, Rochelle, the sound mind. I missed that boat. It's okay. See, David comes forth and he tells Saul, I'll go take him. I'll fight him. And Saul said unto David, thou art not able to go against the Philistine to fight him, for thou are but a youth, and he a man of war from his youth. Saul knows this is crazy. This kid can't tackle him. But whatever it is, whatever giant in your life, whatever fear it is that's keeping you from moving on in your Christian walk and drawing closer to God, sharing the gospel with people, or just keeping you away from God. It's not you. You can't do stuff on your own. It's God. It's not the person. It's the God. Right. David knew this. David said unto Saul, thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock. Okay, this is where David completely loses me. I'm watching sheep, a lion and a bear come up. Yeah, you lost me. I mean, big cat now. But he sees this, and it takes a lamb out of the flock. And I went out after him and smote him and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard and smote him and slew him. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he has defied the armies of the living God. See, when we're faced a situation and we're scared, we're afraid, we kind of need to be like David here. He's remembering past victories. He's telling past things that God has delivered him from. Everybody's been delivered from something. If you're saved, you got salvation. You were delivered from, hell, you were saved. But we've all struggled with stuff. I've told y'all before, I've struggled with alcohol. If you ever tried quitting an addiction, it's hard. I don't know how many of y'all's ever struggled with an addiction. It is hard to quit. I cannot quit on my own. God has to be what delivers me. And to some of y'all say, alcohol, well, that's not a big thing. I used to drink and quit it. Well, it wasn't a giant for y'all. It was for me. I was an alcoholic. When I decided I'm going to stop and I asked God to help me, my victory was I went today without a drink. And then the next day I went today. God delivered me from the ball. And it seems like everybody's offering whenever it's like, okay, I'm gonna sober up. That's when everybody starts coming up and it's like free alcohol. It's just, Joey ain't gonna pay for nothing. It's like, where were you people when I drank? You got to remember these small victories that God gave you. And now we're going on 7 years. Now we're going on this year, 20 years from other stuff. If we think about how God delivered, and that's what I had to do, is I had to think about it. And you talk about witnessing, you sit there and you think, well, how to think about that? Well, somebody told me. What happened? I realized I was a sinner. I realized I needed God. I realized I was going to die and go to hell. Somebody told me Jesus died for me. See, remembering that victory that God gave me, I can tell somebody else that victory. David says, moreover, the Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of the Philistine. And Saul said unto David, go, and the Lord be with thee. Give praise to God. Don't sit there and think, I done this, I. We can't do nothing. We can't breathe on our own. We can't live on our own. We can't do nothing without God. It's something interesting here. Saul arms David with his armor and puts his helmet of brass upon his head. Also, he armed him with his coat of mail. Saul gives him all his stuff that he needed to go fight the war and puts on this kid. And Saul's head and shoulders taller than all the other people. One thing I kind of get from that is be yourself. Use your God-given abilities in anything that you do in your Christian walk. Don't try to be other people. I know a lot of preachers, they'll go and they'll preach and they'll try to imitate and act just like somebody else. I've got a preacher friend. He was a real good preacher. He was really thorough. He heard another preacher that he looked up to start preaching. And that guy yelled and he screamed and he did this all the time. And then that guy started doing that. And he started slipping away from the way he preached and the way he taught. Trying to imitate or copy somebody else, that's not trusting God, that's trusting their abilities and what they do. God's gave each and every one of us ability to do something. He's got a job for everybody here. Whether it's preaching, teaching, we're all called to witness. Each one of us has different little quirks and things that we can get to people. And that's what we're to use. I mean, I'm stupid. That's my superpower. I tell people that all the time. I will walk up to a random person and say the dumbest stuff. It starts up a conversation. I mean, I told somebody at Rideout one day, I walked up to the counter and said, "What do you want?" I said, "I want a piece of hardwood that was hand scraped by a Tibetan monk who only drank holy water blessed by the third pope." He looked at me, and then he starts looking at the screen. And I'm like, "No, man, I just need 8 bags of masonry type S." So I have the ability to say stupid stuff and not worry what people's going to say. And so, I can get somebody to laugh, except for y'all this morning. I can normally get people to laugh. Now I get to talking to them. If I got time, I can pull this out and I can talk to them about Jesus. I can ask them about their salvation. If I don't have time, I can pull a track out. I can invite them to church. So we all got something. We don't need to copy and try to be somebody else. We need to be who God made us. And that's what David's doing right here, because he throws the armor off. He throws all this off, and he takes his staff and he takes his slingshot. He takes what he knows, and he picks him up 5 rocks. So whatever we do, he picks up 5 rocks. He doesn't know how many rocks it's going to take. I mean, he's fighting a huge warrior who's covered in armor and got a huge sword. He's going up there with a staff and a slingshot. Whatever we do to overcome fear, we have to be prepared. One of the best things we can do to be prepared is to pray. We should always be in communication with the Lord, anytime. If there's something there we're scared to do, we need to pray to God. We need to tell Him, take away this fear, help me. We need to study. We need to study God's Word. If you're scared to witness to somebody, we've got tracts. Matter of fact, they got verses on the back of them. You can work on memorizing them. Work on telling people your testimony. How you got saved. I mean, any simple thing. But we shouldn't let fear overtake us. Is this making any sense to y'all? You guys are staring at me like a calf stares at a new fence. Okay. The great thing is here in the middle of this battle, I know Zach's back there like I don't know what language he's speaking. But anyways, one of the interesting things is here goes David. He runs after this Philistine. He slings the rock. He kills him. He drops him dead. Gets the sword out from the Philistine. Chops his head off. What immediately happens afterwards? All them scared guys that were hiding run forward to the battle. Any person in this church could be that one person that runs into battle and goes out and knocks on doors and starts doing that. Or be that one person who starts a prayer group and be praying for the church and praying for the ministry. One person in this room could be that person that starts something and starts movement. Because they ran into battle. They were no longer scared. They were no longer afraid. And so when you talk to people, and when we're at church, a lot of times we don't talk about our failures and our mistakes. But if you share stories like that and how God delivered you, it strengthens other people's faith. It helps other people who are going through problems. See, me and Chad, we have a connection on the alcohol thing. When my dad was going through cancer and stuff like that, I text Chad a lot. There was times I told him I've never thought about drinking as bad as I have right now. Chad sends me back a text. He's like, yeah, you'll forget about everything for a few moments, but you know as well as I do where that path's going to lead and how bad things are going to be. God gave me godly friends like Chad to help me. See, some of the stuff you go through, you think about, oh, it's terrible I done this and I shouldn't have done this. But it can help strengthen other people's faith. It can help other people. I mean, I'm not bragging about any addictions I had. I wish I never would have. I wish I'd have been like Aaron. You know, I never stepped foot in church until I was 14 years old. It would have been great to grow up my whole life and to be in church and never go through them things and see things that I've seen. But share your testimony. Trust God. Believe in God. We shouldn't be scared. And one of the craziest things I always tell people is the worst thing that can happen to you is the best thing that can happen is you die. Before I got saved, I had a really huge fear of death. Like, I was scared of dying. I didn't know why I was scared of dying. Well, I didn't know what was going to happen when I died. I really didn't know much about hell. I just thought I ceased to exist. I got saved. I'm no longer scared of dying. I'm not scared of death as much. I mean, I don't want to die from a mosquito bite or a spider bite. I want something big, you know. I want a meteor to crash down and get me something where the obituary where Aaron stands up here and say, well, no one would have survived that. I don't want to. He got bit by a ladybug and stubbed his toe and died, people. Because the thing is, if I die, I'm not going to have aches and pains. I'm going to be before God. But that's also a little bit scary. I stand before God and He says, why didn't you do this, that, and the other thing? I don't want to stand before Him and say, because I was afraid. Because that ain't going to make no sense to Him. I'm standing before the God who created everything, and I'm going to say I'm afraid. The Bible tells us we ought not fear men. All they can do is kill you, but fear God. Paraphrasing that. So give me that look there, Connor. I know you got it memorized. We shouldn't let fear overtake us. All fear will do will shut us down and slowly kill us. At the end of our life, we will stand there before God and we'll say, that was stupid being afraid. Just imagine if everybody in this church just decided, I'm going to start praying for all the ministries. I'm going to start praying for our church. I'm going to start praying for growth. And then they start praying, Lord, give me the strength and the courage to go out and knock on doors. Lord, send people my way that I can witness to, that I can invite to church. What if everybody started doing that? What if every one of us stopped being afraid and started trusting God? What could we do? How many people's in Cersei, Aaron? 25,000? I mean, if we got 10% of that, well, that'd be a lot. 10% of 25,000, yeah. But just imagine what we could do. The early church turned the world upside down. I mean, is that not impossible for us to turn this area upside down? I mean, we're seeing growth in our church. We've got ministries growing. We've got Brother Chad going to the nursing home. And people say, well, that's just people who's trapped in the nursing home. Well, you know, he's also preaching to the people who work in that nursing home. He's getting a witness to them people. And to the people who's in the nursing home. I mean, if I ever get put in a nursing home, I pray there's a preacher there that's going to preach. But we don't need to be afraid. We need to trust God. Because if we sit there and think eventually I'll get over this fear, we never will. I'm scared to death of public speaking. And I hid for probably 5 or 6 years not wanting to preach. I'm still scared to get up here in front of y'all. But I have to. I don't want to stand before God and say, well, I never preached, or whatever attempts of preaching that I do, because I'm scared. Pray. Study. The closer we are to God, the better off we'll be. I guess I'm going to end here. I'm going to be like Chad. We're going to have like a 20-minute break, and apologize for that. Y'all go drink some coffee. Get ready for the preaching service. Brother Connor, will you pray and dismiss us, please?